In the shadowed heart of Europe, where stone cathedrals rise like petrified hymns and ancient bridges arch across fog-laced rivers, lies a riddle that has haunted historians for centuries. How without machines, without electricity, without modern mathematics did medieval builders construct monuments of such staggering precision? How did 12th century architects align Gothic cathedrals with celestial constellations so precisely that even NASA engineers have expressed awe? How did artisans with no access to trigonometry design spiral staircases with constant radii vaulted, ceilings that balance on impossible angles, and stone domes that have withstood earthquakes for nearly 1,000 years? And most curiously of all, why does the mathematical language embedded in these structures bear an eerie resemblance not only to Greek sacred geometry, but to the advanced architectural ratios found in ancient sites halfway across the world, many of them thousands of years older? Were these medieval craftsmen simply brilliant beyond modern comprehension? Or were they the inheritors of something older, something forbidden passed down through whispered texts, secret brotherhoods, or remnants of a forgotten civilization? Welcome to a world where limestone whispers secrets, where geometry becomes theology, and where history may be far stranger and far more deliberate than we've been told. Let us begin in Chartres, France. At first glance, Chartres Cathedral is merely beautiful. Its towers slice the sky like spears of heaven, and its stained glass windows shimmer with the stories of saints and kings. But beneath this visual splendor is something far more unsettling, a hidden intelligence woven into every inch of stone. The floor plan of Chartres forms a perfect cruciform aligned, not just symbolically with the Christian cross, but mathematically with the cardinal directions. Its central nave points directly to the rising sun on the summer solstice. This was no accident. The angle of sunlight at specific days of the year was engineered to penetrate the inner sanctum like a divine spotlight, illuminating only one column at one moment in the entire calendar year. And then there's the geometry. Every dimension of Chartres, the length of the nave, the height of the spires, the width of the transept is based on ratios found in the Fibonacci sequence. The golden ratio and ancient Pythagorean harmonics. Historians tell us that the builders were masons, laborers, artisans, working off blueprints handed down by guilds. But what guild taught them how to encode phi into flying buttresses? Who instructed them to mimic the exact harmonic intervals of ancient Egyptian temples? Temples that hadn't even been rediscovered yet. And why did the labyrinths carved into the stone floor of Chartres match the proportions of Mayan ceremonial calendars? Did these builders rediscover lost mathematics through divine inspiration? Or did they receive knowledge that never truly belonged to their time? This brings us to one of the most disturbing facts few mainstream historians want to address. Some of the most iconic medieval structures in Europe exhibit construction tolerances that rival or surpass modern engineering. Consider the Roslin Chapel in Scotland. Every surface is adorned with stone carvings of such complexity that modern sculptors cannot replicate them with the same accuracy using today's tools. The star patterns, vegetal fractals, and harmonic symbols etched into its arches suggest not just artistry, but a mathematical language, a syntax of stone. And at the heart of the chapel lies a set of musical codes, literal sound waves carved into stone. In 2005, researchers discovered that the symbols above certain arches correspond to cymatic patterns, visual forms of sound produced by vibrating plates of sand or water. Roslin isn't just beautiful. It's an encoded frequency chamber, machine for manipulating acoustics and resonance. But who designed this? The official records credit William Sinclair, a Scottish noble. Yet the level of sophistication exceeds anything known to the 15th century. Unless, of course, he wasn't designing. He was preserving. Let's turn our attention now to bridge structures rarely granted the reverence of cathedrals, but equally enigmatic. The Devil's Bridge of Ardino in Bulgaria stretches across a mountain river with a perfect semicircular arch, unaided by mortar. Built in the early 1500s, it has survived floods, earthquakes, and the decay of time. Its curve is so mathematically precise that modern civil engineers have praised its durability as an unsolved marvel. In England, Clapper Bridge of Post Bridge is built from granite slabs, weighing several tons dragged and balanced across a river without collapsing under their own weight. Its technique of dry stack construction suggests a working knowledge of load-bearing physics that wouldn't be formally understood for another 400 years. How is it possible? Some speculate these builders possessed a deeply intuitive understanding of nature's laws. Others believe they were guided by lost manuscript texts rumored to have survived the collapse of Rome, hidden in monasteries, and passed from generation to generation. And then there's a more controversial theory, a darker one, that much of medieval Europe's most precise architecture owes its brilliance not to intuitive genius, but to something non-human. The idea is not new. In fact, whispers of alien math can be traced back to the 13th century. One such example is the Voynich manuscript book of unknown origin, filled with indecipherable script and illustrations of plants that do not exist on Earth, though not directly tied to any cathedral or castle. Some believe it contains codes used by medieval builders' complex ratios, orbital paths, geometric alignments far too advanced for its time. The manuscript was carbon dated to the early 1400s. It emerged mysteriously in the possession of a Jesuit scholar and remains untranslated to this day. Now ask yourself, what kind of culture produces books with alien botany and mathematical diagrams but leaves no explanation? Is it madness or a map? Even in the world of stained glass, anomalies arise. The so-called medieval blue found in some cathedral windows, especially those at Chartres, has never been perfectly recreated. Its deep cobalt hue seems to shimmer with an inner light, a quality scientists have struggled to replicate. Some have speculated it involved alchemical knowledge now lost. Others suggest exposure to minerals no longer present in Europe. What if it wasn't just a color but a coded material, formula, carrying resonance or vibrational frequency? More intriguingly, what if the entire cathedral functioned as a device, not just a place of worship? Some researchers argue that Gothic cathedrals were harmonic chambers, built not for sermons, but for transformation. Their proportions, materials, and geometric alignments were designed to amplify sound, light, and spiritual energy in ways we no longer understand. This opens a door we rarely dare to enter. What if medieval builders didn't just believe in divine harmony? What if they could build it? And then there's the question no one wants to ask. Where did this knowledge go? If this was simply advanced geometry passed from master to apprentice, why did it vanish? Why do later Renaissance buildings, despite their elegance, lack this embedded cosmic precision? Why were so many medieval blueprints destroyed during the Inquisitions, the Reformation, and the rise of empirical science? Could it be that the knowledge was not merely forgotten, but buried, suppressed, erased? By time, but by design. It begins, as so many forbidden stories do, in silence. A silence not of ignorance, but of intention. Across the monasteries of medieval Europe, thousands of manuscripts were copied by hand, some filled with scripture, others with diagrams, codes, and maps. But there were also books that never made it into libraries, books spoken of in frightened whispers, locked away behind false walls, or burned under orders cloaked in divine authority. And within those missing pages may lie the real story behind Europe's medieval marvels. Because what if the cathedrals and castles we admire today are merely echo shadows, something far older, far more advanced? What if the masons who laid stone upon stone weren't inventing from nothing, but reconstructing fragments of a science that came before recorded time? To answer that, we must follow the threads, not just in Europe, but across continents. In remote parts of Ethiopia, Highland churches are carved downward into the bedrock, entire sanctuaries, sculpted out of solid mountain, not built upon it. The 12th century church of St. George in Lalibela is perhaps the most famous. A perfect cross-shaped structure sunken deep into volcanic rock. No mortar, no timber, no scaffolding. It's just precision carving in 3 dimensions. What makes this? More mysterious is the lore. Locals insist these churches were constructed not just by men, but with the help of beings from the heavens who worked alongside them by night. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church dismisses this as mere metaphor. But is it? Compare Lalibella's subterranean symmetry to the sublevel chambers of Egyptian temples, or the hidden passageways of Peru's megalithic ruins, and a pattern begins to emerge. Advanced construction beneath the surface, geometry and resonance, echoing across cultures that, according to mainstream history, never interacted. And yet, somehow, they speak the same architectural language back in Europe. Legends persist of hidden knowledge preserved in stone in Cologne Cathedral, Germany, beneath layers of soot and restoration. Faint inscriptions remain on the foundation stones, symbols resembling hermetic sigils, astronomical glyphs, and proportions not found in Christian liturgy, but in ancient Babylonian star maps. Why would a Christian cathedral encode Sumerian? Mathematics, lest its builders had access to manuscripts from long-dead civilizations. Unless the libraries of medieval monasteries weren't just spiritual vaults, but repositories of forbidden science. The 9th century scholar Gerbert of Aurillaklater, crowned Pope Sylvester II, was said to possess a mechanical head that could answer any question. According to legend, he had studied in Moorish Spain and brought back knowledge deemed sorcery by his contemporaries, celestial spheres, astrolabes equations. He was nearly excommunicated. But more curious is this: he oversaw the construction of cathedrals whose floor plans aligned precisely with star constellations visible only during specific equinoxes, not inspired by the stars but mathematically fixed to them. This isn't religion, it's astronomical engineering. And Gerbert was just one of many. Let's talk about the Masons. We often imagine them as dusty workers, chiseling stone beneath the watchful eyes of bishops. But the truth may be far stranger. The original stonemasons, those who built the earliest Gothic cathedrals, formed secretive guilds, structured more like mystical orders than trade unions. Their initiation rites involved sacred geometry, oaths, of silence and teachings not found in any Christian text. They spoke of the great architect, a divine force not of religion, but of proportion. To them, God wasn't just spirit. God was ratio, harmony, geometry. Consider this: the Masons left no written blueprints. Instead, they used coded tracing boards, wooden tablets etched with symbols and angles intelligible only to initiates. These boards, once widespread, have all but vanished. Except for a few, hidden in private collections, sealed in university vaults, or quietly dismissed as decorative art. And some of these boards, they contain diagrams eerily similar to crop circle geometries, those complex formations appearing in fields, so often dismissed by skeptics, yet studied by military analysts for their impossible precision. Coincidence? Or are we looking at a recurring code emerging across time, space, and culture? Here is where the trail deepens into darkness. In the early 14th century, the construction of Gothic cathedrals began to slow. Not because of financial collapse, not because of war, but because knowledge stopped. Suddenly, the ornate complexity of architecture gave way to simpler forms. Mathematical precision vanished from public buildings. The secret symbols disappeared from blueprints. And entire lines of stonemasons, men whose fathers and grandfathers had built monuments, left the trade. Why? Some believe the church clamped down on esoteric teachings, that during the Inquisition, it wasn't just heretics being burned, but ideas, books, methods. The Council of Vienne, in 131112, issued sweeping denunciations of certain mystical and scientific practices, effectively outlawing sacred geometry, alchemical texts, and hermetic philosophy under the umbrella of sorcery. And buried in that same purge was the suppression of the knights. Templar an order accused of worshipping a mysterious head, of building secret temples, and of possessing maps older than the Bible itself. Within a year of their arrest, dozens of Gothic projects were abandoned mid-construction. Coincidence? or strategic erasure. But if the knowledge vanished from public life, did it survive in secret? Some say yes. During the Enlightenment, whispers of a resurrected knowledge began to emerge among elite circles. The Rosicrucians, the early Freemasons, the Invisible College. These groups claimed no lineage to medieval architects. And yet many of their symbols echo those found carved into cathedral columns, bridge keystones, and mason tracing boards from centuries prior. Their philosophy? That hidden truths lie beneath surface reality. The world is a coded architecture, a divine machine waiting to be read. And if you knew the code, you could build anything. Temples, bridges, perhaps even machines. Which brings us to an unsettling question. Were the cathedrals of medieval Europe simply places of worship? Or were they machines? Devices designed to manipulate light, sound, energy, consciousness? Some researchers now believe that the acoustic properties of certain cathedrals can alter human brainwaves, producing theta states associated with trance, revelation, and vision. In labs, these effects have been replicated using frequencies recorded inside Chartres, Amiens, and Salisbury. These aren't just echoey buildings. They resonate with precision, amplifying certain tones, silencing others, creating sonic interference patterns that seem to affect cognition. It's as if these buildings were tuned, and what's more, unnerving. Many of them are situated along ancient ley lines, geographic alignments stretching across continents, connecting sacred sites like Stonehenge, the Great Pyramids, and forgotten temples in Asia and South America. Could medieval builders have been tapping into something global? Something pre-human? Is it possible the sacred geometry used in their designs is part of a planetary gridan, ancient energy network, now lost to time? And if so, where did this grid come from? Who first mapped it? And who taught our ancestors to build upon it? If these questions feel speculative, that's because they are. But speculation is the beginning of inquiry. And in a world where half the past remains buried, sometimes literally it, is our responsibility to ask what has been hidden, and why. Because when you stand in a cathedral and feel something stern, not just in your ears or your eyes, but deep, within your bones you are not feeling the weight of stone. You are feeling the echo of intention, of design, of knowledge lost. This is not fantasy. It's geometry, architecture, harmonics, math, but a kind of math that feels almost alien. There are places in Europe where the stone itself feels alive, not metaphorically, but functionally, as if each wall, each arch, was placed not just with precision, but purpose designed to do something, affect something. Perhaps return to Chartres for a moment, not to its stained glass or its architecture, but to something even more cryptic, its foundations. Beneath the cathedral lies a crypt, one of the oldest in France. But deeper still, buried beneath the Christian sanctum, is an ancient druidic well, sacred site long before Christianity reached these lands. And around it, in the blueprint of the cathedral itself, are geometric overlays, concentric circles, angles that mimic lunar cycles, floor patterns that mirror planetary orbits. Why would a supposedly Christian building encode pre-Christian cosmology? Lest the builders knew that the sacred wasn't limited to any one religion, but was part of a deeper, older system. A system not of worship, but of alignment. Throughout history, sacred architecture has aligned with the heavens. The pyramids of Giza align to Orion's belt. Angkor Wat aligns with Venus. Machu Picchu with the solstices. But medieval cathedrals? They do something stranger. They align two frequencies. In 2022, a team of researchers used ground-penetrating radar and electromagnetic scanners to map the frequency response of multiple Gothic cathedrals across France and England. What they found shocked even the skeptics. Each cathedral had a unique frequency signature, as if tuned like a musical instrument. Not random, not acoustic accidents. Tuned. Some vibrated strongest at 111 Hz of frequency, now known to enhance human intuition and emotional processing. Others peaked at 432 Hz, the so-called universal tuning linked to harmonic resonance in ancient temples from Tibet to Egypt. But these buildings were built in the 12th and 13th centuries. How did they know unless someone told them, or unless they were following something older than their own civilization, older than Rome, older than recorded time? And this is where the story turns inward. Because if these structures were not just buildings, but technologies, then we have to re-examine everything we thought we knew about medieval builders. Who were these people really? Why did so many cathedral architects remain anonymous entire generations of stonemasters? Mathematicians and engineers, their names lost to history. Why do early blueprints contain non-Christian symbols, spirals, all-seeing eyes, stars, compasses, octagons, labyrinths? Why do some carvings in hidden places show figures holding what appear to be geometric tools that wouldn't exist for centuries? Dividers with ratios of pi, calipers shaped like golden spirals? Could it be they weren't allowed to claim authorship? Could it be that their real knowledge was dangerous not to the people, but to power? Because if the public knew that sacred geometry could alter space, if they knew that sound, shape, and intention could change human consciousness, then who would need a priest? Who would need a king? Let's look briefly at Glastonbury Abbey. In England, it was said to be the burial place of King Arthur's story most dismiss as legend. But beneath that tale lies something more grounded. The ruins of Glastonbury form a massive geometric layout, invisible at ground level but evident from the air. Some claim the layout encodes the flower of life, a universal geometric pattern, found in Egyptian temples, Chinese manuscripts, and Mayan glyphs. It also appears in Leonardo da Vinci's sketches. In each culture, it is said to represent the blueprint of all creation: time, space, life, and there it is, etched into medieval stone. Coincidence? Or is Glastonbury not a monument to myth but a library of geometry? And now we must ask, where does this knowledge point? Not just backwards, toward a lost civilization, but forwards to a paradigm we've yet to fully understand. Some theorists propose that this ancient, encoded architecture was meant to interface with the Earth itself, using sacred geometry to harmonize with telluric currents, its magnetic fields, even the Schumann resonance. In this view, a cathedral is not a building, it's a node, it's a resonant engine. Part of a planetary system that was once global before time erased the connections. Is this why similar architectural signatures appear in Angkor, Karnak, Tikal, Giza, and Paris? Not because these cultures traded, but because they inherited the same source. A lost root, a forgotten technology, procataclysmic system designed to tune the human being to the cosmos. And if that's true, then medieval builders weren't artisans, they were translators. But if they were translating, what were they translating from? The answer may lie in a heretical document known as the Picatrixa, grimoire of astral magic translated into Latin in the 12th century. In it, there are diagrams rotating spheres, interlocking patterns, and constructs that resemble architectural blueprints, but with planetary annotations. The Picatrix teaches how to build structures that align with the movements of celestial bodies to draw down forces. To most, it's mystical nonsense. But what if it's not? What if the forces it speaks of are fields electromagnetic harmonics? What if the magic is simply misunderstood physics? If so, then perhaps the builders of Roslin, Chartres, and Notre Dame were engineers of consciousness. Architects not just of stone, but of experience. And here we are standing at the edge of history, staring back at a past that seems more advanced, not less. It begs a final, uncomfortable question. If they used alien math, what happened to the ones who gave it to them? Were they visitors, survivors of a lost age, or simply the last stewards of a science we no longer understand? And more urgently, if they once taught us to build with intention, frequency, and geometry, what have we forgotten? And what are we missing today when glass towers rise from concrete jungles? Built not on sacred ground, but on profit dissonance. And speed? Is it any wonder we feel less connected, less inspired, less human? Maybe, just maybe, those medieval cathedrals weren't built for God, but to remind us that we are part of a design, a geometry, a harmony, one we once knew, must now remember. Asterisk, if this opened a door in your mind, like it, share it, stay curious. Subscribe for what they never taught you.